Welcome to Getting Sketchy Live, brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com. And now, let's get sketchy.
Hello there, everyone. Matt here with thevirtualinstructor.com, and welcome to Gettin Sketchy Live. And this is actually season 11. If you've been following along with us, you probably have already figured out that all of last season we were calling it season 11 when it was actually season 10. I don't know when that happened. I think we got mixed up in one of the previous seasons, but here we are, season 11. And also, if you are on the newsletter list and you received the message yesterday about Getting Sketchy starting tonight, I did put the year 2023 in that. I only had 2 people tell me about it, and I responded to them, but it's actually 2024. So if you're watching this live, of course, you figured out all of that information, and you're here with us tonight as we are going to start season 11. So what we do here with Gettin Sketchy is either myself or my good friend and fellow artist, Ashley Hurst, either one of us, we try to create a drawing for you within 45 minutes. We have a timer and everything. And we do this all live for your entertainment and also education. So we're going to throw in some instruction in there as well. And we do 10 lessons. And then at the end of the season, we do a recap where we take a look at all the drawings that we created in the season and do a critique. So we will be broadcasting each Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, if you did not get the message that I sent out yesterday, that means you're not on our newsletter list. And in order to get on the newsletter list, if you just go into the description underneath this video, you'll see a link that says free course videos and ebooks. If you click on that and enter your email address, that will put you on our newsletter list. Plus, you'll get free course videos and ebooks and a bunch of other free art lessons as well. So I would encourage you to do that if you haven't already. And we're going to go live with the drawing in just a minute. Ashley's going to be doing the first drawing of the season. And this season, we are picking our own materials and we are picking our own subject matter. So we're going back way to the early days of Getting Sketchy. For the past few seasons, we have challenged ourselves by a few seasons. We let the wheel choose what image we were going to do, what medium we were going to use. We had a game show kind of set up with creative prompts. And then last season, we created artwork in the style of artists from the past. But this season, we're going to be creating artwork in our style with our subject matter of our choosing. And Ashley, as I mentioned, is going to be doing the drawing tonight, and he is sitting right over there. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thank you for asking. Hope you folks are ready to draw tonight. The materials are relatively simple. We are choosing our own subjects, and I chose the subject of the binoculars, something that I like and use. Like Matt said, we don't really have a theme, but I have a feeling that a theme may develop in my drawings over the course of the season, or maybe some sort of a connectivity. So we'll see if you guys can figure that out. So in any case, I think it is going to be a challenging drawing just because the parts are relatively numerous, but they are kind of, they're geometric forms, things like cylinders or just general geometric shapes that we're going to be putting together. So I think it's very doable and in 45 minutes. I haven't ever actually drawn a pair of binoculars before, especially not this pair. So we're going to really treat this as a sketch and draw for 45 minutes, and we'll see where we're at when the buzzer sounds.
All right. And speaking of that reference, Ashley was talking about binoculars. He's going to be drawing binoculars tonight. He'll have the photo reference up over the top of the screen that you'll be seeing in just a minute. But if you want that photo reference for yourself, all you have to do is go to the community tab on the YouTube channel. So to get to the YouTube channel, you're watching this video. This is not the YouTube channel, but to go to the YouTube channel for the virtual instructor, just click on the small icon of my face underneath this video somewhere. I think it's on the left side. That will take you to the YouTube channel, and then look for the community tab. And underneath the community tab, you'll find that photo reference and a convenient link back to the video that you're watching right now. So if you want to take care of that, you can do that, of course. And like I said, we'll have the photo reference up during the broadcast. Now, during tonight's broadcast, there's a chat box, of course, and you're welcome to make comments and ask questions. If you do have a question or comment that's specifically directed at Ashley or I, and you want us to answer it on air, we would encourage you to use the super chat function. It does cost a little bit to use the super chat function, but it does help out our channel So we would greatly appreciate it if you go that route in the chat box tonight. And if you want to go further with your drawing and painting skills, of course, you have got to check out the membership program at thevirtualinstructor.com. It includes a variety of drawing and painting courses on a variety of subject matter and media. Right now, I'm working on publishing the 22nd course, and the courses that we have are not regular courses. They're pretty in-depth, pretty long, actually, with a lot of information, and they include instructional ebooks along with the videos. Plus, we do weekly live lessons for an hour each week. When we're done here on YouTube, we're going to be continuing our series where I'm painting a dog in the snow with watercolor. But all of our live lessons that have ever been recorded are also available to you if you are a member. So all of our live lessons are stored and recorded. I counted them today. There are 496 videos included with the live lessons. Plus, there's a weekly critiques as part of the Members Minute, and there is a year-long curriculum for visual arts teachers. All of that is included in the membership program. If you want to learn more about the membership program, there is a link in the description below this video. You can check it out. Everyone starts out with a week-long trial for free, so you can see if the program's right for you. And then beyond that, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee after the 7-day free period. So you have nothing to lose. I highly encourage you to check it out, of course. All right, with that being said, I think we're ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. Let's go ahead and take a look at our small set of materials, and we'll start drawing. All right, so our paper is, let's see, it was 8 by 10, and I've taped it down, and so I guess that brings it down to somewhere around 7 by 9. It's probably slightly larger than that, because I believe my overlap with the tape is a little bit less than a half of an inch. So something close to 9 by 7. Our reference is a similar rectangle, but I didn't actually measure the rectangle in the reference image. It may be slightly wider compared to its height than our drawing paper tonight. So I'm not going to be using the edges of the picture plane so much to measure where the parts of our binocular goes. I'm just going to start drawing and hopefully start to use the parts of the binocular and making comparisons and reference those parts against one another to figure out if the proportions are relatively accurate. And relatively accurate is what we're going for because it is a timed sketch. So we'll make our shapes and then we'll move on to shading.
And Ashley, I've got to interrupt you real quick.
Sure.
Because we have a super chat.
Oh, wow. Happy New Year, Jan says. So happy to see you guys back with the best show on YouTube.
Yes, and we were making noises over the top of that. Again, Jan says, Happy New Year. So happy to see you guys back with the best show on YouTube. I'm not sure if our little cheer overlapped that or not, but just to make sure that Jan got his comment read there. So thank you so much, Jan. All right.
Yeah. Yes, thanks.
Back to you, Ashley.
First super chat of the year, right?
That's right.
Okay. So I've got a 2H pencil to start our drawing, a 2B pencil. We'll switch to the 2B to, or not to be. No, we'll switch to the 2B to do our shading. And I brought my electric eraser. I don't know that I'll have a reason to use it. There's some sharp little white highlights on parts of this pair of, is it a pair of binoculars or is it just, are they just binoculars? Do you need four?
I am the wrong person to
It's like a
ask
about
about
pants
that.
or
Well,
pants, right?
They're binoculars.
So I don't need to say a pair of binoculars.
If you have a pair, well, you have a pair of glasses, right?
I don't know. Do I
There
have
are
a
two.
pair of glasses or do I just have glasses?
There are two glasses there. There are two pieces of glass.
I think I
so,
struggle with pairs.
maybe.
All right. Well, these binoculars they do have some shiny spots on them. So we may have cause to try to use our electric eraser, or we can just shoot to preserve those white areas when we start shading. It's not that crucial to the success of our drawing. I'm mostly looking to create a pretty decent proportion and form. And then I just have a regular pink eraser that looks like it's missing a little bit, and that's my fault because I like to cut my erasers into small pieces.
I thought you might have gotten hungry on the way over.
Right, I had a little snack. So I guess we're ready to start drawing. I'll go ahead and remove my materials. Of course, you can use any materials you like. You can use one pencil. You don't need two. I'm just going to use the 2H so that if I have to do, and probably will have to do some erasing, we'll be able to erase those lines relatively well, and they won't hopefully distract from the finished drawing. And I say finished in quotes because it's a sketch.
Well, Mary Elizabeth points out that it is a pair of pants.
Okay, that's correct.
There's one pant, and you have a pair of them.
So if I have pants, I have several separate legs of pants.
I bet it should be a pair of binoculars.
I like that.
Yeah,
a pair of binoculars.
Where is my pair of binoculars?
That makes good sense to me.
Yeah, me too.
All right, thanks, Matt.
All right, are you ready for the timer?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. Let's go ahead and bring up the timer. I hope you folks are ready out there to draw along with us.
45 minutes to go.
All right, here we go. So the binoculars are kind of irregular in their shape, but generally they kind of fit into a rectangle. They would fit nicely into a box. So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm just going to, using my pencil, you're going to see me tilting it out here, but I'm just trying to capture or study the approximate angle that the edges would make if all of the edges were connected together. So we're drawing sort of a parallelogram, something that's similar to a rectangle that's laid down in space. And, you know, we may draw, we will draw inside of this shape. We may have to draw outside of this shape, but it's just a way to get started. All right, there we go.
Terry has said, according to Google, it is a pair of binoculars, and the plural is pairs of binoculars.
Okay. And I guess I wasn't too far off.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and start measuring my shape. Before the show began, you know, I haven't really studied this photograph very much. It is a photograph that I took. I went ahead and measured the width of our binoculars compared to the height of our binoculars. Those are the first two things we can compare, are the width and height, and they're already on here in this sort of distorted polygon. So let's measure our width, and the width is a pencil plus that much, which is actually about a quarter of that pencil, and the height is a little bit less than that. So let's measure the height and go backwards now. So the width is 1. I would say that's closer to 1/2. So I'm probably just a little bit too wide. So I'll keep that in mind when I draw and try to come up a little bit short. And I think we're actually going to back off at this shape some over here because we're going to carve some of it away. Let's go ahead and start carving our binoculars out of this shape. And I have a feeling that the width and the height measurements will come more into alignment with one another when we do that. See, we're already knocking a little bit of this corner off. So starting with the 2H.
Okay, Buddy says she likes your subject, and Mary Elizabeth says, is this method of blocking in called the envelope method?
Because it fits into an envelope? It's like it's like you stuff it in there? I don't know. Maybe. I don't call it that.
No, I like to think of it as just breaking objects down into simple shapes first, and then finding the next simple shapes within those shapes. And that is a great approach to drawing subjects, no matter how complex they may be. But especially for complex subjects, it's great to start with one simple shape and then break it down into more simple shapes within that shape.
Smaller and smaller simple shapes.
Exactly. Go smaller and smaller, and all along the way, you're making comparisons between the shapes that you draw and the shapes that you add to that drawing.
All right, I'm going to change this line a little bit, and it's going to change the back a little bit too, probably.
Okay, Hossam says, I have a question. If a drawing is looking flat, how do I know what details to add? Well, that's a very, very, very general question.
The flatness may be more due to a lack of gradation or spatial devices rather than details.
Yeah, in order to make a drawing look three-dimensional, not only do you need to get your lines and shapes as close to accurate as possible, but most importantly, you need to get the values as accurate as possible. Value is the darkness or lightness of a color. Value is one of the 7 elements of art, but it really is the most important element of art because value tells us about the form of an object, it tells us about the texture on that object, it tells us about the light within the scene, the direction of the light source, the intensity of the light source. So value is incredibly important. And if you get the value correct, then your drawings aren't going to look flat. Now, as far as details go, An artist can choose what details to leave in and what details to leave out. Perhaps you've seen painters who paint subjects, and in our mind, in our eyes, we can see and understand those objects. But if we look closer at the painting, we notice that there's a lot of details omitted or left out, and that's because the artist has done a good job evaluating the values and including the shapes of value in the correct location with a value that matches what they have observed. So that's really the most important thing. So not necessarily details are the most important thing. It's more about the value. And you get the value right, you're going to get an image that looks three-dimensional, and then you can choose how many details you want to include. I'm sure Ashley's going to omit some of the details in this drawing tonight.
Yeah, we're looking for form tonight. Form and proportion, which, it's good to know what your goal is, because if you're sketching, and that's what we're doing here, you're working in your sketchbook, sometimes, the goal is to just focus on an aspect or a specific element of art that is a problem you're solving, and you're the subject. Like, it could be about color. It could be more of a color study where proportion's not so important. But this one, of course, is not very colorful, so this one's going to be more about proportion and form, or scale and form, size, the size of parts. All right. So I've been moving lines around, and remember, there's this object is symmetric in real life, even though it's turned at an angle. So what's happening on one side is happening on the other side, just a smaller version of it a little bit, because it's farther away. So as I start to work inside of my original polygon and things are squeezing in a little bit, I've got some new points that need to be transferred over to the other side. So I've got some light lines that are going through my drawing just from one side to the other, so that the general perspective of the drawing is sort of in agreement from one side to the other.
Okay, Keith says there's a variation of this method to create a box first and then draw the binoculars within the box. That's just a different approach, Keith. In the course 25 Days to Better Drawings, we cover drawing with simple shapes and also drawing with simple forms. So a box or a cube or a rectangular prism, or whatever you want to call it, is technically a form. We draw a form with shapes, of course, on a flat surface. But if you think about it as being a form instead of a shape, then it's a little bit more of a more accurate approach. But Ashley can draw this within the shape. But some of you might want to draw a box. That might help you locate the top edges of the binocular. I
actually thought about doing that, like going ahead and doing this kind of business over here, but I didn't feel like it was entirely necessary.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about? Like going ahead and construction?
You can approach it both ways. And like I said, in the course 25 Days to Better Drawings, we cover both of those approaches. So it's just a simplified way of finding accuracy in your drawings. Again, you can start with simple shapes, or you can start with simple forms.
All right. Now, I've been doing some of what I mentioned I wanted to do as far as how to find all of our parts, which is make comparisons to what I've already drawn. So I went ahead and threw a lens down in here early, and everything else has been growing off of that, including the eye lens here in the back. I don't know the parts of the binocular, so we'll call this the eye lens, because you put your eyes on it, I guess.
Actually, that's the ocular opening. I completely made that up.
You better be making that up. You sound too smart.
We make up things.
So what I was looking at is this little tiny flat edge here. If I were to stretch it out, how would that stretched out mark pass through the forward lens? Okay, I got it. Forward lens, rear lens. All right, that's what we'll call these. The forward lens, the rear lens.
But you look in the rear?
No. Yeah, I guess you do.
You look in the rear.
I guess you do, because it's the rear of the binocular. You're in the back of the binoculars.
Maybe we should just call that the peephole.
Okay. So I would do the same thing. You can do the same in your drawing. You can lay your pencil on top of your reference and see where it passes through the lens. And it passed through about halfway through, or a little bit to the left to halfway.
Orion Nebula says it's the eyepiece.
The eyepiece?
Of course it's the eyepiece.
That makes sense.
I prefer ocular opening.
All right. Now, this other eyepiece is really offset from the barrel of that scope.
It's called an eye cup, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Jan.
I think
has
that I think I've
clarified
actually
that.
heard that term,
Yeah.
the eye
The eye
cup.
cup.
Now, these binoculars are particularly made for people that wear glasses. So the eye cups roll in and out. You roll them in if you wear glasses. You roll them out if you don't.
You know, there
Cool.
used to be that little thing when you were a kid where you would write out IC, spell eye cup.
Right,
You know,
I
you'd
remember that.
ICUP.
Yeah.
So an eye cup really is ICUP, but it's EYECUP. Eye cup.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is. Matt's so juvenile.
I have just become so mature in my age.
All right, let's see. Let's take a moment to kind of analyze what we've got here. I feel pretty good about this this empty space in here, and that's something that I was looking at. Maybe it may be a little bit wide, but I was trying to really focus on the empty space while I was drawing all these bits in here. So these are all separate parts that I actually haven't drawn, but I've drawn the one contour along those separate parts. We've got the hinge and the two scopes. So there's a relationship that we've already sort of captured along one contour. Now I'm going to try to separate all those parts in the middle. Negative shapes are something that I didn't learn to look at until I was actually drawing in college. And when I started paying attention to those empty spaces, my drawings got remarkably better in like a day. I mean, it was almost instantaneous. And usually we don't always see marked improvement in such a short time. So that's gives us a great advantage. We have twice as much to look at and make comparisons with if we're looking at the things themselves, the positive spaces, like the binoculars, but also the space around and between those parts.
Mary Elizabeth, I'm not sure I understand your question. She's asking, is the reference the size of the subject photo the same size as the drawing? If you can rephrase that.
It's not printed out.
Yeah, it's not.
So I don't have a printout that's the same size.
Right. It really doesn't matter what size your picture plane is.
Yeah.
Just as long as it's the same shape as the reference. If you're going to use the edges of the picture plane for comparison. So it doesn't have to be the same size. It just has to be the same shape. So that means it needs to be proportional to the photo reference if you are going to approach it this way and look at the edges of the picture plane to make comparisons.
Right. And I'm not using the edges as the picture plane, but while you were talking, I thought I would take a look at them. Mm-hmm. And it's not that far off. I'm drawing a little bit smaller inside of this rectangle than what we see the binoculars, how we see the binoculars in relation to the edges of the picture plane of the photograph.
Yeah,
So,
it looks like Ashley's drawings just shifted a little bit to the left in comparison with the picture plane. So
if you want you could measure the reference and figure out what ratio the height to width is, and then trim your paper to match. But I don't think mine quite matches, so there's going to be some difference there. I wasn't too worried about it. Just like a sketch, when we're working in our sketchbooks, sometimes we're not even working from a photograph. We just have to lay it somewhere, right? This is some pretty wild and crazy.
Keith says he saw an advert for a pair of bird watching binoculars the other day with built-in AI that will identify the bird from
Oh
from a
my
library of
goodness.
images.
Oh my goodness. That
Now,
would have saved me hours online trying to identify birds.
Here's the question there, Keith. Would it identify Big Bird? You could give it a little bit of a test and see if Big Bird is in that library of images.
If it's in the database.
Yeah.
That would be funny.
Or Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah. All the
Wonder if
famous
they're in there.
birds. That's actually what I use my binoculars for a lot, is to watch woodpeckers.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
I usually watch the neighbors at the beach.
Oh, I've never used my binoculars. I've never trained
You've
my
never used them for
binoculars
nefarious
onto
uses?
a neighbor.
I don't think that's
in case
true.
any of my neighbors are listening.
Actually, the first thing, my son got a telescope for Christmas.
That's right.
And it's awesome. And there'll be an upcoming lesson where I have drawn the moon with colored pencils using a photo reference that I took using the telescope.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing I did when I was setting up the telescope was to aim it at one of my neighbor's windows down the street. I had to get it calibrated.
Yeah, right. It's a good reason.
I didn't see anything except some blinds.
Oh, goodness.
I have not used it for nefarious purposes since then.
Well, I would think, I mean, it's a serious telescope. You would zoom
is a
in.
serious
You would
telescope.
zoom into something here in your neighborhood at a really granular level.
Well, you
Probably couldn't even tell what you were looking at.
You can adjust, where the focus is, to a pretty great depth.
Yeah, it sounds
So-
like it. All right, I'm just making this side a little bit bigger. So we've made it we colored outside of the lines a little bit of our original polygon. All right, there we go. I was just taking a moment to slow it down a little bit.
I appreciate you for not reporting me, Mark, but I think you are free to look outside of your window and look at other people's houses. I wasn't technically spying. It was only a matter of 3 or 4 hours. No, I'm just kidding. I was
just calibrating. I'm just calibrating, man.
get this set up right. It was only a matter of probably 5 minutes or so when I was getting I had to look at something to calibrate the telescope.
Yeah, and you can't.
And it was the middle of the day.
Look at stuff in your living room. That's not far enough away.
Absolutely
You have
not.
to take it out. All right. Just working on our lens opening. There's some hollowed out area in here. Just throw some curves in there. Make that apparent.
So it looks like you're making pretty good time here. You got 28
I
minutes left.
haven't looked at the time. I've been scared. It's been a while since we've done a Gettin Sketchy. And I've lost my feeling for.
Well, you've still been
time.
doing live lessons. And
That's
stuff,
true.
you know?
That's true.
But there's no time limit.
For a
There's
live
no
lesson, you always know
countdown.
there's next week.
Right.
Whatever you don't get to this week, you'll just finish it up in the lesson.
Right.
next
This
week.
got to be
This
finished
is a standalone.
in 28 minutes.
Right,
in
one shot
19
and
seconds.
we're done. But like I said, I picked out a subject that I wanted to draw. I didn't really. Sometimes, I do think about, can I do this in 45 minutes? But I think this season I'm just going to pick up stuff I'd like to draw, the kind of things I would draw in my own sketchbook, and in my own sketchbook, some of the drawings are more finished than others, and it doesn't bother us. So I'm going to try to bring that approach to the season this season.
Ryan Nebula points out that trees in the distance work for calibrating. Yes, that's true.
Don't you have any trees in your
I
neighborhood?
do have trees behind my house, but that wouldn't have worked. They were too close. So listen, I'm making a joke here. I was really calibrating the telescope, and I had to look at something.
I promise.
It just happened to be one of my neighbor's windows that's really far down the street. And what size is the scope? I have no idea. It's really long. I have no idea. It enables me to see some pretty incredible details on the moon. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I got to see some of that.
I would say it's probably about 24-ish, maybe a little bit longer inches.
All right. I'm feeling okay about this so far.
And it has a
Gonna start
little
shading
laser pointer on it. It's not really a laser pointer. It's like a little laser dot that allows me to line up the target with that laser, which is helpful. And it's got these really cool handles that allow me to twist to make precision adjustments to it. It's pretty cool.
I remember having a lot of fun with my own telescope when I was growing up.
Buddy says, if you have a picture of a subject and you want to change the perspective, how would you start that? I'm not sure why you would want to change the perspective.
It's because you got a photo of your subject, but you can't get another photo, and you don't have access to the subject.
Right.
You know,
are you talking about changing the angle?
like the eye level. I've done that before.
Yeah.
Matt. I've changed the eye level, looked at my reference for general shapes and details, but drew it from a lower angle by using a horizon line and a vanishing point that was lower than the one I could trace in the photograph or identify.
Right. And in
That's
order
good.
to do
That's
that,
the
you would
big
have
reason.
to work from the photo that you have and through sketches or practice, create a sketch that you would use essentially as your reference along with the reference that you have from the different angle. Perspective, I'm not really sure you would want to change the perspective, 1 point, 2 point, or 3 point perspective, if that's what you're referring to. But you could definitely change the angle, and that would change the angle of the perspective within the drawing. But
I did a project like that, Matt, in my classroom. It was a little bit of a disaster. We found
that's difficult.
We found pictures of things in 2 point perspective, and then we tried to recreate them in 3 point perspective.
Oh, okay.
It was fun.
Yeah,
but it was challenging. Some students were better able to do it than others, and it may be because of their subject choice. Some of them might have been a little bit easier.
Okay, so you are starting to add some value at this point,
right? And I'm looking first at everything that looks black.
It looks like a 2B pencil.
That's right. Switch to our 2B pencil. And we're doing cross contour shading tonight, so mostly shading the shorter direction and around the form. And of course, the binoculars are very dark subject matter anyway. There's a lot of black in there, and I'm just going to be using a dark gray for what is black.
Speaking of black, Brent Does Art says, being all black, I think carbon would have worked great for this.
I thought about that, and I do have a carbon pencil.
This is a teaching moment now, Brent Does Art. If that binocular was true, if that pair of binoculars was truly black, you would not see it. So it is not black. It is really variations of grays.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm just saying that. I know Brent Does Art's rolling his eyes right now.
Oh, yeah.
But it is important to know that, because that will help you understand the values that you see. So instead of grabbing a material that is actually totally black, think in terms of grays instead of black. And that will help you, especially in color drawings and paintings, because we really, there's not really a whole lot of black in the world.
Have you seen that material now that absorbs 99 It is
that is black.
That is black, and things just disappear when it's put on.
They do. There's no contrast.
I've never seen anything like
highlighting,
it. It seems like voodoo or something.
Yes,
I haven't seen anything like that before. Now, I wish I could tell you guys the name of it. It's like a material. It could be cloth or it could be paint. I think it can be powder. And it absorbs all the light. You put it on a subject, and it turns into a flat silhouette.
But Brent Does Art, that is a good observation, because Ashley is working on white paper with the time limit, and he's having to add a lot of material to the surface.
Yeah.
So another approach may have been to work on black paper and add the light values.
Mm-hmm.
That's one approach. Another approach is to work on white paper, but cover the surface with powdered graphite or powdered charcoal first, then erase out the highlights, and then go back in with different applications of charcoal or graphite to make areas darker or lighter accordingly.
And I kind of like using the powdered graphite. It's fun. It doesn't get crazy dark, but it would get as dark as the medium values, I think, medium and light values in the subject. In fact, Matt gave me some powdered charcoal, and I still have it. It really goes a long way.
Yeah, it really does.
I mean, it'll probably be all I need for the rest of my life.
I may need that powdered charcoal back.
Okay.
Because I have planned out in my mind the materials that I'm going to be using this season. And I am thinking of using powdered graphite or charcoal for one of the lessons. Did
I say charcoal or graphite? Powdered graphite.
Oh, okay. You can keep that for a while.
Okay, yeah, that's what I have.
But I do need that back at some point.
Okay. Well, it's not your whole container. I brought that back.
Oh, well, then
I just kept a tiny bit out.
Oh, well, you can keep
So
that.
you should still
You do whatever you want with that.
So you should still have your container.
Clearly, I've been missing it.
Yeah, right. Give me my graphite back. Hasn't used it in 2 years.
Honey, have you seen my powdered graphite? What is that?
I'm trying to make my soapbox derby car go faster.
Would powdered graphite make that happen?
I used to
put it on the wheels.
I used to put graphite on the axles of my Pinewood Derby cars in the Cub Scouts.
Yeah. Well,
it would make them go faster. You know how slick it is.
My dad helped me build my Pinewood Derby car, and my dad is a pretty good craftsman.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, he's really good at that kind of stuff.
My dad had surgery today, and he's doing great. And I know he's watching right now because he said that he was going to be watching tonight for entertainment. He can't go anywhere.
Well, that's great.
He's got to sit and watch Gettin Sketchy. But I'm not sure if this was cheating or not. But I remember the car that we made. It was painted blue. We put stickers on it, and the back edge of the car was black. And I put a skull sticker on the back, and we called the car Vector. But in the middle of the car, he planed out or carved out a little section and put a big piece of lead in there.
Oh no, that you're allowed to do that.
That's legal?
Yeah, because we would do the same thing. And then we would drill into the lead until we got it at just the right weight.
Okay. Well,
because I think we were overweight one time. So we had to drill some.
Live the rest of my life because I've been holding that guilt since the second grade.
No, I think you're allowed to do that. Or my dad also cheated. He did the same. We melted lead down and poured it into a cavity. If you can believe that. Probably much harder than it had to be. All right, so we got a lot of the actual black in this section. A lot of the other areas, I mean, it's just gray. It's just a kind of a dark gray right now. Those are the areas that I see as being black on this half. So we'll keep moving, just looking for black areas right now. When I work on white paper, I like to find the darkest areas first and knock those in because I can never make the mistake of going too dark in the areas that appear to be black. Conversely, when I work on black paper or maybe a scratch board or any other black surface, I'll find the whitest or lightest thing first and put that in. And that goes ahead and establishes the value range that I'm after. And I can try to just work in between the surface value and then the first value that goes down, either the lightest or the darkest.
So Jay Gerald says, I think there's a wrong projection on the left lenses. I'm not really sure what he's talking about, but he says there's still time to correct it.
Probably maybe the proportion.
Maybe he meant proportion.
Yeah, I guarantee
instead of projection.
There's the wrong proportion.
Yeah, and let's clarify something here.
Yeah.
Ashley's name is not Xerox. And my name is not, what's another name for a copy machine? I don't know. My name is not Kinko's.
Kinko's, yeah, there you go. They're still Kinko's.
When we create drawings or paintings, they're not going to be exact replicas of the photo. And honestly and truthfully, we want to be as accurate as possible, of course. We're striving for accuracy.
Sure.
But a little bit of imperfection actually adds to the experience of viewing a drawing or painting. At least it does for me. So if there's a little bit of imperfection in your drawings, first of all, don't get all amped up about it or too consumed with perfection, because if you are, you'll never finish a drawing,
and definitely not in 45 minutes.
Right. We're all human beings, and enjoy the process, create drawings, but also allow a little bit of those marks to show that a human created it.
Especially nowadays.
In fact,
I want to talk a little bit about digital and AI art tonight when we get a chance.
All right.
Are you finished? I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, we only got 16 minutes. So okay. I know that you're...
I've seen some digital artists, great digital artists, complaining a little bit and getting upset that other folks are seeing their artwork that they'll spend like 30 or 40 hours on,
right,
and assuming it's AI art.
Yep.
And so the digital, and I used to struggle with traditional versus digital art. Where did I fall inside of there? It took me a while to learn to appreciate digital art, and then I started making it, and I started loving it, and I still do. Mm-hmm. And But I'm finding that I was worried that AI would just sort of cheapen the idea of pictures in the mind of a lot of viewers, a little bit. I was worried about that.
Yeah. And
I was similar to the same fears I had when digital art started really gaining traction. And what I'm finding is, I'm looking this is just like on social media, just reading comments and stuff. The AI is having a little bit of a detrimental effect on the perception of handmade digital art, but not so much traditional art. It's causing people to appreciate this more.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's the same
It's
thing,
making a comeback.
It's the same thing that happened in the Industrial Revolution. When it first started, everybody wanted machine-made, factory-produced products.
Because they were perfect.
And then after a while, people returned to wanting handmade objects. I mean, you look at sites like Etsy and so on.
Right.
They're popular because people still crave products that are handcrafted and made with love by an artisan.
We can identify with them even if we don't do them. We can appreciate them.
Right. Absolutely. And the AI drawings, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but they all kind of look the same.
They do, and sometimes there's extra fingers.
Same artist did it. Yeah.
Right. And if artists quit making art, AI art will never change because it's all based on what it scrapes off the internet.
Right.
What else is already out there? Or that's my assumption. Maybe it'll become more creative one day.
Okay, Edie says AI art is to real art what Kindle is to real books. I don't know about that because Kindle the words are the same in a Kindle book as they are in a real book.
Yeah, I don't mind real books. I like them, and I also like e-readers. So I don't have a dog in that fight, but I know a lot of folks are real partial to their pages.
Well, I like my books read to me.
Yeah, I do.
So I like to listen to
me
books.
too.
That way I can do
books.
other activities.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And still read, and I'm throwing quotations with my fingers, the book.
I saw your air quotes.
Yeah, you saw it, but no one else did. But
all right. So again, still just looking for black areas, and a lot of our subject is dark.
I do agree with what Jan says. Jan says, yeah, AI art, and most people seem to hate the mere idea now, will boost traditional artists but hurt digital artists.
That's what I'm noticing, or that's what I'm wondering about thinking.
The appeal of digital art, especially with illustration, is that you can make changes really easily.
Layers and undo buttons, things like that.
Yeah. And some digital art can be produced quicker than some traditional art. Not always. There's a lot of time spent in creating digital art.
Sure is.
But you got to remember the end consumer of a lot of digital art are publishers, people who are purchasing the rights to use the image, and so on, where if they don't have to pay the same amount as they would pay to an illustrator, and they can just, create the image through AI and then get the imagery that they need for whatever publication or whatever they're using it for. That's definitely appealing to those people.
I've already used AI to do some graphic design for somebody that I was running out of time.
Oh, really?
And this was free. I was just helping them out. They needed a logo. Right. And I had an idea for it, and I was running out of time, so I used a program and generated a few options, and then asked the program to change the colors around. Now, I was still making decisions there, me with the AI.
Right.
And then it spit something out. I threw it into Photoshop, made some changes and adjustments, and that was it. It was very fast. So I'm a little guilty of using it for commercial purposes or purposes that were going to become commercial. I wasn't charging any money.
Mary Elizabeth expresses some concern that you're not going to have time to do the shadow, but she also adds it looks great.
Let's see. It's 11 minutes to go, so I share your concern.
And, there's 11 minutes left.
Now, listen.
But if Ashley needs to make some little bit of changes over the time, that's permissible.
We have 45
minutes. We just have to be...
And we also have until 7:30 our time.
We do have, another show at 8:00 for members. So we do have somewhat of a time constraint.
I'm sharpening my pencil. All right, there we go. I didn't disappear. I just needed to lengthen my lead a little bit. I was starting to scrape. And then remember, my approach to this season is work like you would in your regular sketchbook. And so I'm not really too concerned with the time limit this season and what place I get my drawing into. It's going to reflect 45 minutes of observational work, wherever that leads us. And I have worried in the past, can I make this look like a complete draw? Even though we say we're sketching here, we're not necessarily making, finished works of art. I've always been kind of preoccupied with, can I make it at least look reasonably finished, evenly worked? But I'm not going to entertain those ideas this season.
I'm going to continue to entertain those ideas.
I know you are.
I am going to try to make my drawings look polished inside of 45 minutes. And if I do that, that's great. If I don't, I will just
lose sleep.
I'll lose sleep.
All right.
But I still think you have time to finish this.
Oh, I do too.
You remember that Van Gogh drawing you did last season?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that suits your style of drawing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the way you draw. And this drawing kind of has that kind of feel, the same kind of feel.
I thought,
and
the
I know
same
how
thing.
quickly you can.
When I was taking the photograph, I thought this reminds me of the Van Gogh drawing.
And what I'm trying to remember. Oh, it was something to do with ears. It was glasses.
They were headphones.
Headphones. That's what it was.
Right. This
glasses have nothing to do with ears.
And this one has
what is
something.
Wrong with
well,
me?
they hang on your ears, so I'll give you that. And this one has to do with eyes. So all about the senses, I guess. All right. I'm going to bring this out a little bit. I don't know if I imagined it tapering in more. So we'll make a little adjustment. Then go back to shading.
By the way, guys, if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And if you like this video, then give it a like. It's so easy to do that. And also, if you're watching the recorded version, which will be published almost immediately after this broadcast is over, then leave a comment below too. That seems to help other people find the video. More comments that are under there. And the mysterious YouTube algorithm.
Right, whatever's happening there.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to work with strokes that follow the direction of the form where I can, where there are curves. Do some curvy strokes, which are a little more challenging sometimes than straight lines.
So going back to the detail, one detail that Ashley is leaving out is the Bushnell logo.
So far.
Oh, you're planning on going
far,
back?
Yeah.
I was trying to find
details. I actually think that needs to be
that you're omitting
elongated. On purpose. Well, I didn't draw the strap.
That's true.
That's
no
in the
strap.
Picture. I've just totally ignored that.
Didn't notice that.
For one thing.
Norlene asks, what's the theme of Getting Sketchy this season? The theme this season, Norlene, is we're going to do whatever the heck we want to.
Right. The theme is there is no theme.
We're taking it back this season.
Taking back control.
This season, we're choosing our own subjects. We're choosing our own media. And that's the approach that we're taking. So
that's not
Ashley's
to say we haven't
hinted that he's going to have kind of a running theme.
Well, I am
not.
I wasn't thinking that when I took this photo, but something's developing. I've got ideas developing in my mind.
Something's developing.
Right, there's something marinating up there.
What is developing?
The old noggin.
what could be developing with?
Well, I started to associate
binoculars.
the binoculars,
Yeah.
to myself.
I'm sure there's going to be some kind of crazy connection between things that only you would be able to.
Right, and then I'll get to the end and say, "Okay, guys, what was it?
All along,
What was
I've
my
been
thing?"
doing this.
And no one will know. No one will have seen it. Yeah, it could happen.
Nicole says, "You do you, boo."
Oh,
I don't know what that means.
You do you, boo. I'm doing it.
Say you do you, boo. Oh, you do. I don't think she means like booing bad. I think she's calling us boo.
Right.
Like it's
That's how I heard it.
a term of endearment.
That's right. You do you, boo. Hey, boo.
Yeah. You do me. Does that work?
It
No,
does.
that doesn't work.
That would be the same thing.
Yeah. I do me. Right? Not me do me.
Yeah, I think.
Can I call myself boo? Tomorrow I'm going to start asking everyone I know to start referring to me as boo.
Yeah, just get a couple people in your circle to call you that in front of other people. See if it takes off.
Yeah, see, Nicole, the fact that you have to explain to me that it's a saying says a lot about me and my lack of awareness of what's going on in the world around me. If you would have said that to my oldest daughter, she'd be like, "Oh yeah," and then she would say something else that only people who are hip know what they said. Yeah, but
in relation,
if you say those things to me, see, people probably don't say hip anymore either. Hip, by the way, is a saying that means that people are cool.
It means cool.
Yeah, it means cool.
I think cool is the only word that just made it through the generations.
Well, there was a period in the 80s where it was hot. Everything was hot. It wasn't cool, it's hot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's either hot or cool.
And for a while in the 80s, it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
That is bad.
Yeah. Who's bad?
Bad was good. Okay. Well, we're down to
What's funny though is my son, who is 9, he likes listening to Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And a big Michael Jackson fan, which is interesting. And also, he's now getting into Bob Marley.
Oh, yeah? How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, he was on the radio on the way to his basketball game. He's
Well,
like, I like this.
Quality music stands the test of time. Think about all the songs that we listen to that you haven't heard in like 2 decades. You probably can't even think of them. I can't think of them because they were just pop songs that fell by the wayside. But
yeah,
some music stands the test of time.
Okay, I know what rad means. Nicole says rad. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah,
yes.
I remember that one.
Rad is short for radical.
Radical. That's right.
Radical. That term was really big.
Right. Me and Matt were there for that one.
With BMX bikers and skaters.
So we remember that. We used that one. So I used to be a skateboarder.
In fact, there was a movie called Rad, and I think it was about BMX racing.
Oh, yeah?
Or, freestyle
Gosh,
BMX.
I'm sure I saw it.
I'm sure you did.
I just can't remember.
Well, in the last 8 minutes, you sure have added quite a bit of value there.
Yeah, we knocked in. I mean, the whole thing is really, I got to get this lens over here. It's really just a couple of distinct values in here with subtle variations. Really
and
just
going
two.
Back to that comment earlier about that person, somebody asked about making a drawing not look flat.
Yeah.
This is a good example of how the value makes the drawing stand up off the surface. And once it actually gets that shadow in, it's going to make it stand out even more. So right now it's a floating pair of binoculars. Right. That shadow will ground it.
Floating in white space. Now, there's such subtle and soft changes of value where there are that this is the kind of drawing we really could noodle around on for a long time.
Jay points out the rad of today is dope, and that's true. Dope was cool back in the day, though, too. I actually have a shirt that says dope on it, and it's a new shirt. And I'm afraid to wear it out in public because I think people will think that it's referring to drugs or something.
They'll try to buy something from you.
Right. And it's like, well,
it's like an advertisement.
And I was like, no, you don't get it. It means cool. Does anyone... Yes, BMX I think stands for bicycle. It's not bicycle motocross, but it's something like that.
Bicycle motocross.
There's no motor, but I do think it's something like that.
All right, we're going to go ahead and bust this, throw a little bit of a shadow in under here.
And while you bust that
We
out,
are in the last minute, so we may go over just a smidge, just to get a little bit of a loose shadow in there so we know it's making contact with some sort of surface.
we do have a super chat.
All right.
So I'll let us make that noise there. And then a numbers girl says, Happy New Year. Glad to see you guys. Great job on the binoculars. Thank you, a numbers girl.
Thanks.
We appreciate you too. Numbers girl. We've seen her pop up a few times here, along with
now.
Jan as well. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. All right, starting on the shadow here. Not quite.
I'm going to have to move my microphone
He's
a
got
little
to
bit.
prepare for
Yeah,
the
I'm
shadow.
trying to...
BMX equals bicycle motocross. Motocross, no R. Motocross. So I was close, but I left in an R. Ryan Nebula's asking about the strap. The strap is going to be left out tonight.
Strap is not...
That is a detail
not
that
a
is being
player.
omitted.
So this is the darkest part of our shadow, right down here where I've started. You know, it's important to note that there are some variations in cast shadows, and those variations keep them from looking like a void, an empty or negative space in the picture plane. My pencil is really dull. It's got a flat spot on it, and so it creates a kind of a speckly look when it's not sharp, but it does cover space quickly.
Nope.
Yeah!
You got a bonus cheer there.
A bonus
Let's
cheer.
switch back to the
Oh boy,
main camera.
Whoops.
And had the
it was still going.
super chat cheer going.
And I'm going in a couple of different directions, and that helps to sort of even out the strokiness.
Norlene says, quick, get the powdered graphite out. You know, in this case, though, the powdered graphite would have a different texture.
Yeah, that's
than
true.
The way Ashley's rendered this.
Unless I were to smooth out these marks with a stump or something like
Yeah,
that,
if you
create some
stumped it up.
disharmony. Yeah.
Okay. Buddy's asking, do your marks for the shadow follow the contours, form of the subject, or the ground?
The ground, I would say. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm mostly making horizontal strokes or flat strokes to sort of mimic the ground.
So by also changing the direction of the strokes there, not only is he describing the surface that the binoculars are sitting on, but he is also creating contrast, not just in value, but also contrast in directional stroking. So there's, you know, when we think of contrast, we think of difference in value or color, but contrast can be any type of difference. So when you do have edges of things that bump up next to each other and the values are similar, you can change your directional strokes to create contrast, additional
Yeah, and
contrast.
that's really important when you're working with lines a lot of times, like in engraving and pen and ink and scratchboard. So you don't lose your subject in there.
Okay, I'm probably going to mispronounce this name, but I'm going to try my best. Kalinista says, do you use fixative when you're finished?
I do use fixative, but usually not on my pencil drawings. I don't shuffle them around too much. They usually look... Now, if this were in an actual sketchbook that I were carrying around, you know, just a little bit of the paper rubbing up against itself when you're carrying your sketchbooks around does smear your drawings. So if this were in an actual sketchbook, I would give it a shot of fixative. But because it's on a standalone piece of paper, and I'm going to put it into my Gettin Sketchy folder, which just stays in a studio all the time, I don't have to worry too much about it smearing. So not on this one.
I am a non-fixative user on all surfaces,
Right,
and all
Matt
materials.
is he just takes good care of his artwork and doesn't use fixative. Stores it well, or
some
mats it
artwork
and
I
hangs
do.
it up.
But
And that's the best thing. The best way to protect your artwork is to frame it or mat it and hang it up.
yeah, that's definitely true. But fixative does change the value a little bit.
It can darken it. A little bit.
And if your fixative applicator, if the tip of the aerosol can is not perfectly clean, then it can splatter out. So you have to be careful with that as well.
Oh yeah, that always do a test.
Yeah,
Even
that
if
can
you used
destroy
it
your
recently,
artwork,
do a
so,
little test. Make sure it's not drying up in the nozzle there, or you'll get dots in your artwork. That's not a good thing, unless it's a stippling, and you don't need to spray those, so it's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah, Buddy says I don't have enough walls for all the framing. Yeah, you don't have to frame all your artworks. I have a video on storing and protecting your art. So if you want to go a little deeper with that, you can find that video on YouTube, or you can find it on the website. It's a free video, and that might be helpful to some folks. I have several different things I do to preserve and protect.
Yeah, main thing is a nice, safe place. I've had other people accidentally harm my artwork because it was my fault. I left it in a place where it could be bumped, that kind of a thing. All right. Well,
yeah, that shadow, I agree. Mary Elizabeth says it now really looks like it's sitting on the table. Yeah,
it makes a difference. Just put a little bit of cast. I love cast shadows, and I had a teacher that told me one time to ignore cast shadows. And I thought, well, it's going to look like everybody's floating off the ground if I do that.
Yeah, what in the world? What kind of advice is that?
It was strange. He said if you ignore it, you'd be surprised how many people don't notice it. It's like,
that doesn't make any sense either.
Or they're just not telling you.
No one will notice it.
Right, no one will notice. And I think they can be part of the composition. This isn't really a composition. It's just a sketch on a blank piece of paper. But sometimes a cast shadow can lead your eye from one place to another in an artwork and can kind of be used as a directional. So, all right. I guess this one is finished, and it needs to be, or finished as it gets, because we're about out of time. We'll throw a few.
Yeah, your time has been up for like 5 minutes. 5 minutes
yeah.
Or so.
So I think we are probably ready to call it. I was just throwing a few hard accents in here, and that's it. All right.
All right. Very good. Very well done.
Oh, gosh. Can't keep my hands off of it. Wait.
Now we can pick up those binoculars.
All right.
Spy on the neighbors.
That's right. Go see what's going on down the street, Matt's neighbor's house. All right. I guess we're ready to switch back over.
All right. Well, very good. All right. We'll switch over here then. I'm laughing because Ashley is continuing to work on the drawing. I can hear.
Maybe you heard those squeaking noises.
Over there erasing.
I was still erasing mostly my handprints from the background. I've got a strong case of silver hand. Maybe that happens to you sometimes when you draw in pencil. I started on the left. I was working from left to right to keep my hand out of it. But when I put that cast shadow in, I laid my hands all over the drawing. And so I've got a pretty severe case of silver hand right now.
All right. Well, that's episode 1 of the real season 11 in the books. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit the like button. Of course, there's tons of other, pre-recorded lessons here on the YouTube channel as well. And if you want to go a lot deeper with your drawing and painting, you really ought to check out thevirtualinstructor.com. There's tons of free lessons there too. So if membership is not something that you're interested in, you can always go check out all the free lessons. There's tons of those as well. So next week, I will be doing the drawing. And like I said, I've got my materials kind of planned out in my head. And next week, I'm going to be working with markers and colored pencils. The subject, I have no idea yet, but it's going to be alcohol-based markers and colored pencils. I don't know the surface either, but I'll have that prepared, that information prepared, and put on the YouTube video for next week. for the live lesson. So, or not the live lesson, the Gettin Sketchy. Speaking of live lesson, we need to wrap up here and get ready for the live lesson because we're going to have to do some switching around here in the studio.
That's right.
So for those of you who are going to be a part of the live lesson, we'll see you in just a few minutes. For the rest of you, we will see you next week at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for episode 2 of season 11. With that, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Ashley, you have anything else you want to say?
Only that I'm still drawing, and I see all your great comments out there. Thank you so much for the warm comments. I appreciate those, and we'll see you here next week.
All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.